We had finally arrived at the cabin after a long drive. The sight of the peaceful lake and towering trees was a welcome relief from the bustling city. My family eagerly unpacked, chattering about the adventures we'd have in the wilderness. The cabin was everything we had hoped for, rustic, cozy, and perfectly nestled between the lake and the dense forest. But as I stood there, taking it all in, I couldn't shake a slight unease. The silence was almost too perfect, too complete, as if the forest was holding its breath, waiting. As we settled in, we explored the cabin's interior. It was larger than it seemed from the outside, with high ceilings and wide windows that framed the lake and forest beautifully. There was a sense of age to the place, though, like it had seen many seasons come and go. A painting on the wall caught my eye, an old, faded image of a forest scene that somehow felt off, as if the trees were too twisted, the shadows too deep. Outside, we found a boat dock, weathered by years of exposure to the elements, with an old rowboat tied to it, its paint peeling and wood creaking in the gentle waves. With the sun beginning to set, my family decided to make a quick trip to a nearby store for supplies. I chose to stay behind, eager to enjoy a few moments of peace. As their car disappeared down the winding road, the cabin was enveloped in silence. I took a deep breath, savoring the solitude, yet I couldn't shake a faint sense of unease. The quiet was almost too complete, as if the forest and lake were conspiring to keep me company. I sat by the window watching the sun dip below the horizon, casting the cabin in a warm, golden glow. The lake shimmered in the fading light, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. But as the last rays of sunlight disappeared, a chill crept into the air. The forest, which had seemed so inviting during the day, now felt like a dark, impenetrable wall. The shadows lengthened, reaching out like fingers, and the warmth of the day was replaced by an almost palpable coldness. The cabin, once a sanctuary, began to feel more like a fortress against the encroaching night. With nightfall, the cabin seemed to come alive with its own sounds. The creaks of the wooden beams settling, the soft rustle of the wind against the windows. I turned on a few lights, trying to banish the growing darkness, but the shadows clung to the corners, refusing to be chased away. I busied myself with small tasks, straightening the cushions, checking the locks, anything to keep my mind occupied. But no matter what I did, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone, that something unseen was watching me from the darkness. As I wandered through the cabin, a sudden movement outside caught my eye. I glanced out the window and saw a shadow flicker near the boat dock, just at the edge of the lake. My heart skipped a beat. Was it just a trick of the light? A nocturnal animal, perhaps? I strained to see, but the shadow had vanished as quickly as it had appeared. I told myself it was nothing, just the wind playing tricks, but a cold shiver ran down my spine. Part of me wanted to step outside and investigate, but another part of me, the part rooted in primal fear, told me to stay put. The night grew darker, and with it, my anxiety. I began to hear things, faint scratches, barely audible whispers that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. The cabin, which had felt so cozy before, now felt like it was closing in on me, the walls pressing closer with each passing minute. I paced from room to room, trying to shake off the creeping dread, but every noise, every flicker of shadow seemed to amplify my fear. It was as if the cabin itself was alive, breathing, watching, waiting, and then I saw it. Framed perfectly in the glass door, standing on two legs like a person, was a deer. But this was no ordinary deer. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and it stared at me with a gaze that felt disturbingly intelligent, almost human. I was frozen in place, my mind racing with stories of skinwalkers and other creatures that I had always dismissed as folklore. But here it was, real and terrifying. The deer stood there, unblinking, as if daring me to make a move. My breath caught in my throat, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. This was no ordinary animal. This was something else, something far more sinister. Heart pounding, I stumbled back, retreating to the safety of the bathroom. I locked the door behind me, the sound of the bolts sliding into place giving me a fleeting sense of security. But the fear didn't leave me. I sat on the edge of the bathtub, trying to steady my breathing, but every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind outside the door made my pulse race. The silence was thick, almost suffocating, and I felt like a prisoner, trapped by my own fear. My mind raced with possibilities, none of them comforting. I was alone, and something was out there, something that shouldn't exist.